Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I'm your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butter ATL. And today, we got a special guest in the building. Really special guest in the building. One of the man who's literally just bringing everybody together. The founder, co-founder of the Gathering Spot, CEO, Mr. Ryan Wilson. Ryan, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
You too, man. It's good to see you outside of TGS for a minute, too, man.
It's good to be seen outside of TGS.
I wonder, man, you got like a bed in there or something? I know you got like a little secret area.
One mistake I made, man, we didn't build any place to sleep. So I have taken a nap in there, but it's not official designated space, which I regret.
Yeah, man. I imagine that you had like a office, like a pastor at a church or something like that, where you can just kind of like go in the back and just. But no, you got to actually leave at certain times.
I do these days. Life has changed a little bit. In the early days, we were there.
Yeah.
If you know early Gathering Spot, we were there. I have spent the night inside of TGS many nights.
Yeah, that was what it launched in 2016, right?
2016.
Man, what do you remember about that time?
It was a lot of energy, man. We didn't know, I'm grateful for that time period because we didn't know what to be afraid of, right? So it was just pure, and we were just mashing the gas, trying to go as fast as we could go. And I hadn't lived in Atlanta at that point in almost 8 years, right? So like coming back to the city, just meeting people and rapid fire, right? And so I was 24 when the Gathering Spot opened. Looking back on that time now, it's just like I cannot believe that all that's happened over the last almost decade we've had the opportunity to do. But that time period was just trying to make it happen. We didn't have a lot of resources when we started, and so you had to hustle.
Hey, mate, I always remember I think the letter that you wrote to TK about the idea in the beginning. I think those are always interesting too. Like I've read like the letter from the original founders, like Airbnb, and like it's always interesting, right, to see like what idea like started a thing.
Yeah.
Like what do you remember like about writing that letter?
It came out of a real moment of urgency and pain. Frankly, I was in law school. So quick backstory: I grew up mostly in Atlanta, went to school in DC, and was in law school, and so was doing some community organizing work. To make a long story short, when George Zimmerman was acquitted of Trayvon Martin's murder, I got an email from some friends that was like, "Hey, what are we going to do?" And I responded back saying, like, we need a physical spot to have this conversation. So I wrote a paragraph. I sent it to one group of friends, and then I sent it to TK, and I was like, look, I think this is a business. Help me build a business model to make this thing a reality. And that was the summer of 2013. So I haven't done anything else. I graduated from law school in 2015, and we started construction that year.
And so you were literally on track to be a lawyer, be an attorney, and all of a sudden you just had this idea based on this moment in time, this moment in culture, and everything just kind of changed, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I wanted to go to law school is that I thought that was the best way to be helpful, right? And I thought that I could use the law to change the things that I wanted to change. It wasn't until I got to law school that I was like, I don't know if I want my work to be focused in this way every single day. And so when Zimmer was acquitted, it was like, well, what do I want to do? I want to bring people together. I want to talk about how we're doing first, and then I want to figure out what we're gonna do about this. But like, we need a space to have this conversation.
Yeah.
It was a really, really simple idea, but that was what kicked off the process. And so TK started to come to my apartment every single night, right? And we were still living in DC at the point, and our goal was to try to take a step every single day. And I mean, as cliche as it sounds, like you just look back at a certain point and you're like, wow, like we actually might be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
He always wanted to work in finance, so he had a job in that space. He quit his job though, and the day after I graduated from law school, we got in the car and moved to Atlanta.
A lot, man. Can't mess up. Along the way, again, like building anything, I think people see those moments. They see the videos and the photos of the Drakes and the LeBrons and all these moments that have happened, right? But like even getting there, people don't understand, man. It takes a lot of no's to get to those yeses, right? Like I'm sure you heard a lot of no's even in what you've built today, right? When you go back and look at it, like and try to really like bring this thing to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, like no's are part of the game. I frankly, when we started, I was not prepared for them. Right? They were emotional experiences for me. Like people would say no, and I would really be like, "What?" Like it was hard.
Yeah.
But then I changed my mindset about it midway through the process. We had pitched a bunch of folks, and it just wasn't going well. And at the same time, the number was growing, right? So we thought we needed like $1 million. $1 million quickly became $2 million. And then I remember I got the call and it was like, look, for you to do this project the way that you're talking about, it's going to be north of 3. And I got some really important piece of advice. My parents are entrepreneurs, so I called my dad specifically, and I was like, "Look, I don't know what we're looking at right now. This number keeps getting larger, and people keep telling me that we should probably just scale back and do whatever version is possible, like we can get out there." And he was like, "Look, son, small ideas will keep you small. You have to fight for the best possible version of this idea." And so that at that point was a $3 million version. We kept pitching, counted right at that point because we wanted to know how many no's we were collecting. It was 97 straight no's before the first person said yes. But look, as sad as that sounds, genuinely, our mindset was we're not the ones that are crazy right now.
Yeah.
These folks just don't see it, and that honestly is a good thing because if they could see it, that means they probably like have seen it somewhere else in the world, and we're not doing anything that's really that unique. So we were just collecting them, right? Like I would get a no, and then would flip in that conversation and be like, "Hey, thanks. Is there anybody that you would be interested in referring me to?" Most of the time, people would say yes.
Hmm.
So like once I stopped being emotional about it, it really changed the entire process. And like we started to get to some yeses, and like you really only need one. Again, that's
Yeah.
cliche too, but like you need one yes. And that domino is oftentimes the only domino that really matters in the early days. But I mean, I love that time period. I miss just the experience of being able to start and like not knowing if it's going to, like, for anybody that is in that stage of the game. I know it's painful at some parts, but like enjoy it as much as you can, because that first album energy, like you mentioned, like the
Yeah.
Jason LeBron, that first album energy, like the when you're trying to like prove it to the world and
Hmm.
yourself, when you finally get it out, there is nothing like that first album dropping to me. And there's been other stuff that's happened that I'm excited about, but like not the first album, right? Like it doesn't, nothing touches that experience.
Yeah, man. Well, look, one thing to be excited about is the retreat.
Yeah,
Congratulations. I mean,
yeah.
and for full disclosure, I am a member of the Gathering Spot. I think I'm a
Appreciate you.
member at the retreat. I did
You
get
are,
the email
you are,
for it,
you're
so
good.
I'm,
You're
I'm
good.
sure
I
I'm good.
appreciate you.
But,
You're good.
but,
You're good.
but like, how did that? Like, what's the vision behind that? Like, how did that come together, and why is that different from the original Gathering Spot?
I mean, time and place, right? So when we started TGS, I mentioned it was a $3 million project, and for us, that was like as much as we could get our mind around. We've always though wanted the community at TGS to have access to the best stuff, right? So we're aware of all the other places that were being built, right? But financially, right, it just like I mean, we were grateful to try to get to the 3 million that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Some of our competitors, man, they would open a project and put 20, 40, 100 million in, depending on where we're talking. And so the retreat for us is about, now again, a decade in, finding a location that really is world class. It's a rooftop, it's got a pool, but it's like it's great space. Now, the community to me is what makes TGS what it is, so that's what we're ultimately focused on. But we want that community to be in spaces that are inspiring to them and that are comparable to anything that you're going to find out in the world. And that's the retreat. So we're going to open that. We got the summer kind of lined up for a bunch of cool activations, and the plan is to continue to build gathering spots and retreats, because the retreat for us is the retreat for the gathering spot community. So it's
Yeah.
very wellness focused. Again, it's got the pool, but like we're positioning this as an escape away from the work and the hustle that happens in a lot of the clubs on a daily basis. This is about us just being able to sit back and connect with one another.
Do you see this as like a potential model that you could also do in other cities? Because obviously, y'all have TGS locations in
Yeah,
other cities. I mean, I've been to the openings in LA and DC myself, and
appreciate you.
those were
Yeah,
amazing experiences. Like, do you think that there's an opportunity to kind of do something similar in those other cities as well?
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, like our interest at this point, it's always going to be about community for us, right? So like we're trying to find, yes, spaces, right, but like build experiences that help people connect with one another. Like those experiences when we opened DC and LA,
Yeah.
like it's one of those things. Again, it's like you don't really know what's happening when it's happening, but then you look back and you're like, whoa, we really like
We got a
took
plane.
we took over a Delta plane, flew all of our folks in, and had a weekend together. Like
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like that since, right? So. Um, we have that same sort of intensity and focus with the retreat. Like we're gonna do some things up there that like I don't think people Nothing new under the sun, but we're gonna do some things that haven't been seen in a minute.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting too, just again, like being a member of TGS and also just is also seeing some of the things that have come out of it. It kind of makes me wonder, like, would some of these businesses and companies even exist in the version they do if like what you all built didn't exist? Like again, I know I've spent many times there working on Butter and other things. I
Sure.
know Justin from Render, he launched Render there. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think about when you just think about some of the things that have kind of grown out of TGS?
The first thing that comes to mind is like I'm really humbled by just even the fact that that's a true statement, right? Like the fact that we can look at an idea and say, no, there are legitimate businesses. There are people that have found. I was speaking at an event a couple weeks ago and learned of a project that I had heard about before, but the founder stopped me and he was like, "My first $10,000 check I got at the Gathering Spot,"
Hmm.
and I'm like, I didn't. So there's all sorts of things that we don't even know that have happened just because people have been able to connect there. And man, I never really fully could have predicted just the diversity of those experiences, right? Because yeah, it's startup and tech stuff, but it's also like political stuff and it's big business stuff, and like we've been able to successfully have a little bit of everyone spend time with one another. Youngest member is 21,
Hmm.
oldest is Ambassador Young, who's 93, right? So everybody in between now 10 years of time of being able to connect with one another. Yeah, there's all types of stuff that's happened, and we've got founders. I went to a Gathering Spot wedding. We've got Gathering Spot kids. Like truly, I mean, like the wedding I went to last year, a TGS member who was based in DC met a TGS member based in Atlanta on the LA trip.
Okay.
So they met in Los Angeles and they got married last year. I
See?
mean, it's just like, yeah, I never fully could have imagined like when we started this that it would be able to become important, right? Because no matter what happens to the business, those marriages, those businesses, like those relationships,
Yeah.
those things will go on for forever, which is dope.
Yeah. I mean, also one of my favorite moments is when the community really rallied around at that time, Councilman Andre Dickens. I mean, I remember seeing, and again, I call him Dre still, but
Yeah,
I remember
yeah,
seeing Dre
man.
like just hanging out in like the
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
restaurant
truly, truly.
and talking and all that stuff. And then there was that moment. I remember you hit me up, and like just the whole community came together and said, you know what, we're all going to get behind
Hmm.
this person and help him get into where he needs to be as far as the mayor of Atlanta. And now he is mayor of Atlanta.
Yeah,
Hopefully getting ready to have a second term coming up soon. Like again, like even situations like that had his announcement, his
yeah,
acceptance speech essentially at
yeah.
TGS. Like how does it even feel again? Like knowing that you all are not only just shaping business but also helping shape politics.
The political thing's always been important, right? Like if we're going to make a difference in the community, you've got to talk to the people who are shaping the policy and talking about what's going on. So I've always taken that super seriously. And there's a lot of businesses where that's like, don't talk to the politicians.
Yeah.
We're anti. I don't. I think it's all politics, right? Like everything. It doesn't. You could point to anything, and like there's a political decision that has influenced how this thing got there, or like how it was made. So like we've got to lean into just participation. But on the personal side, right, to be able to watch people take on different roles. I mean, in the case of the mayor, right? Like I'm like you, like I remember when he was the highly effective member of the city council, right?
Yeah.
And so now, all the time, like I see, I mean, I saw the interview that you just did with him at State Farm in front of a packed arena, and I'm like, I mean, that's Dre
Yeah.
for me. I met him at TGS, right? So like that's Dre from the events at TGS. Like, wow, that's also like the mayor of this city. It'll be a 2-term mayor here coming up. So I, we have never shied away from it, and I believe it is part of our responsibility to lean into the discussion. I want to talk to these folks about why they want to run, and then I want to bring them back and hold them accountable to all of those discussions that we had previously, right? So we've been able to do that on super local races like school board.
Mhm.
I mean, and here over the last couple of years, all the way up to the presidency, right? So I mean, President Biden, Vice President Harris visited TGS many times, but they were there to connect
Yeah.
with the community. I mean, one of my favorite moments was watching President Biden was there for something else, and he just walked out into the dining room and started having like one-to-one conversations with members talking about what was going on. I'm like, we're talking to the leader of the free world here in the gathering spot, right? That like we didn't even know if we were gonna be able to have enough money to build this place, and
Yeah.
like Secret Service has just locked this building down, right? It's just it's an interesting journey, but like I'm not playing in the political space. We're about to like continue to make a big push there. There's a lot on the line right now, and we really really need good leaders that are genuinely seeking to make a difference in the positions that they're seeking, and we've got to inform that discourse. I think people get the order of operations wrong a lot. Like it's like an idea sometimes that the politicians should be delivering to us,
Yeah.
which is maybe okay part of it, but like I look at it like we should be delivering what we want to see to the politicians,
Hmm.
and to do that you have to be in relationship with them.
Yeah, and you have to be active. You have to help make sure get people in there that represent, your needs and your community and your culture. That's why I love the stuff that Dre does, right? It's like he comes from this
Yeah, the
community.
community, yeah,
And so he's going to see it as from a different perspective as somebody that, comes from somewhere else and now you're trying to convince them as to
absolutely,
why they need to be supportive or, get involved in something.
totally agree. I mean, look, I say this to folks all the time. Politicians don't like old people. Like it's not a natural like old people vote, right? Like
Right.
seniors vote, and so we have to just use that very simple frame and understand that if like all of us are engaged in the process, they're going to be paying attention to the people that are there playing the game.
Hmm.
So TGS takes that responsibility seriously, and not everybody has always liked that. I mean that I kind of is what it is to me. But if you're in business and you're in a people business, you got to be talking about what's going on, and especially right now. Like right now is like the most critical time ever to be very specifically focused on where are we at and where are we going, and bringing everybody to that table to have the discussion.
Yeah, no, let's talk about that, man. I mean, yeah, you've built something that brings people together across all industries and different identities and backgrounds and communities. But yeah, from your seat, especially in Atlanta and in culture at large, I guess, like where do you think things are right now, both culturally and economically?
We're in a look I pride myself on being optimistic, right? So with any of this stuff, right? Like again, there's a difference to me about between like where we are and where we have the potential to go to, right? So there's the world as it is, and there's the world as it could be. The world as it is right now, to me, we've got some serious work to do. I don't think that we have recovered coming out of the pandemic. Not not from a culture or creativity sense. From even like if you look at the businesses that are being created, it's not the same as it was right before the pandemic. I mean, we were cooking, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
think that's going to be seen as one of the golden ages of Atlanta. I mean, you had a ton of things. Like how long has Butter been in existence?
yeah, we launched in like 2018.
Like that was the window, right?
Yeah,
Like that window, you just saw so much stuff happening. No, a lot of those efforts are still around. They're still going. We're here, but we need to continue to push the pace with new stuff. And I'm not seeing the same like we're not consistently producing the same sort of efforts at a clip that I'm comfortable with. You add that plus like real economic pressure that we don't really talk about in the way that I think we need to. This is a tough moment, right? But we'll be okay. I mean, I think what history shows us, what our just the overall tradition shows us, is like we will figure our way through. But you've got to acknowledge that like we're not at the top of the. This isn't the best place that we could be in right now. We've been
yeah,
in better.
yeah. And I mean,
So
it's always interesting too because people talk about Atlanta specifically as the black mecca and culture and all these opportunities. But yeah, when you kind of start to peel the thing back a little bit and ask yourself some hard questions like, okay, who actually owns what out here, and who's actually building, who's actually in control, where's the actual money coming from? Like those answers aren't always the answers people want to see.
I don't want this to sound sad, but like again, I think it's just a reality. So our new location, you can see the entire city
Hmm.
from Buckhead all the way through downtown and beyond. And when I look at that skyline and the community that I serve the most, I'm focused on black folks. Nobody black owns most or any of that skyline. So here we are, right, in a culture capital, in a what is seen as a black mecca.
Hmm.
But if they just look at the dirt, right, like we're not we're not owning much of any of the dirt, right? And we can do that same sort of analysis across category, and that is what makes this moment scary. So no, we're not any less creative than we've ever been, but there's being creative, and then there's the business of creativity, right? And unfortunately, here those checks aren't the same. I mean, we have a location in LA. It's obvious, right, when someone is thinking about doing even an event in Atlanta, you get an Atlanta budget, which is very different
Yeah.
than an LA budget, despite talking to very similar audiences, right? So like the business of how the city moves right now, we've got to continue to shine a spotlight on that. A lot of our creatives are as capable, more capable, producing, I would argue, the best stuff that you're going to find.
Hmm.
The cash that's in the city tied to that doesn't match at all. And so, I mean, again, if we're going to get to where we need to go, we've got to acknowledge that fact. And there's some work to do on all sides, but like simply acknowledging that reality is the first step to me. And we get so caught up in these narratives of like, oh no, we've got it all figured out here in Atlanta, and it's like we've got the number one income inequality in the country right now. We don't have it figured out. Now, look, I love this city tremendously, right? But because I love it, like I've got to talk about how it could be better every single day. And I've got kids here, man. My kids are I want to stay here, but I want them to be in a version of Atlanta that makes sense.
Yeah, like I was talking to Milton Little, CEO of United Way, right? And I think he said something along the lines of, yeah, from an upward mobility standpoint in
It's not
Atlanta,
happening.
yeah, if you're born in poverty, there's like over a 90% chance that you will stay in that for the rest of your life.
There are a lot of terrible stats like that. I mean, life expectancy on the north side of town is like 10 years more than the south side of town. Uh, Like miles away from one another. We're not talking
Yeah.
about like that this is I mean, barely hitting traffic distances and
Yeah.
total differences in life expectancy. Where I spend most time is in the small business kind of part of this conversation. 96% of our businesses don't employ anyone, right? So if you think about what happens when a community doesn't have the ability to employ itself, uh, uh, terrible consequences, right? Like you're not able to impact the community in the same way, and really everyone is dependent upon either government or the rest of the private sector to supply nearly all of the jobs, right? So like we've got to talk about this stuff differently, not as a point of shame, right? Like I've said that stat before, and people are like, what are you trying to say about? I'm not trying to say anything about your business. I'm trying to say that like we zoom out, 96% of the companies not employing us, not one person, is not a sustainable statistic for us as a culture capital. Like that isn't something that we can continue to just be okay with. You add that plus some other stuff. I mean, I saw a stat a couple of months ago. 43% of black Atlantans have delinquent debt. Not debt, like delinquent debt.
Hmm.
So we start adding this all together. We've got businesses that don't employ anyone, right? 100% reliant on nearly everyone else for all employment opportunities. And almost half of the population has money that's owed somewhere. There is a path forward, but like that is our reality right now.
It's interesting, man. Like you hear about black businesses being undercapitalized all the time. Like we hear those stats, but the thing I always wonder about is like what would radical support for these businesses look like? Like what would it look like if like you made an interesting point to me. We were talking offline, and you said the stuff we do like with Butter does a 404 day with the 404 collective is amazing, but you were like, but what if y'all had the budget of a Coachella? And even for me, it kind of, there's certain questions that kind of like break your frame for a second. You're like, well, damn, what if we did have the
Yeah,
budget for a Coachella, right? Like, what would radical support look like in a city like Atlanta if we could actually get access to that kind of capital and really build up the kind of businesses and infrastructure that reflect what we talk about Atlanta is?
the good news, if we were able to get to this place, is that genuinely a lot of people would be able to participate in the win. I think part of the reason why we don't get there is that people assume that that would be a Brandon win, and it's like
No.
That like cool. Like and actually, yeah, like it should be a Brandon win. Like you thought of something, you've produced something that the city appreciates, and like you should reap all of the rewards for that accomplishment, right? But I think it's also fair to say that if we could get 404 Day to be Coachella esque, think about the small businesses that benefit, think about all the jobs that would be created in that effort, right? Just like all of the things that would be necessary in order to make that statement a true statement are a ton of people. That is a net positive impact, right? That is truly like everyone is going to get a piece of this pie situation, and that's how we have to think about what support. We're in a really weird spot with support where we kind of like hold it as this like chip in our pocket, and like I don't know if I'm gonna pull it out and support you, and it's like no like think about that differently. Support actually is not only just helpful to you the individual, but it is helpful to the community because it is helpful to you like
Yeah.
it truly is a collective thing, and I think we talk about it like it, it's very like one directional. Like I'm here to support. I love what you're building here, right? But like this platform continuing to grow is beneficial to me. I want to I want to see this happen genuinely. Like that is helpful to this entire ecosystem to watch you continue to scale this thing. Any other version of this conversation to me doesn't make any sense. It doesn't at all, right? And like so being in support of one another, I think we make it like it's some hard. We accept impossible things all the time, like especially right now. Like we have companies telling us every single day. Where this really clicked in for me, I remember when Amazon said that they were about to do the drones to drop packages.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if we really accept that a company is going to drop a package at our door like Jetson style, all of what I just talked about is far from impossible, right? Like if you look at all the advancements that are happening in technology with AI right now, we've accepted that like we don't know if the music we're listening to, any copy that we're reading, like we don't know if any of this stuff is actually going to be created by people anymore. But like the idea of 404 being Coachella esque is like that's the impossible. Like, no, like that's totally possible. What actually is crazy is that I can put 4 words into a app and it create like a whole video experience for me. That to me is where I'm like living in the twilight zone, not watching companies grow. So you got to talk about it with a spirit of possibility, and I believe that it's more than possible. Like it should be what we're striving to do.
Why do you think it's so hard for like us to talk about some of these things publicly? Because again, on the outside, when I go out, people having a good time. I'm seeing everybody partying every weekend. We talk about just everybody's got nice cars out here, but a lot of these businesses, even they're struggling, and I'm sure you see a
Uh,
lot of these from your perspective as well.
I, we have to have some more spaces to get to know one another, right? So that there's trust, and then with trust, you're able to have a real conversation. I think that the fact that there's all of these kind of images out there that don't actually represent the reality of what's happening, why those are so prominent is that like that lets me know that a community fully isn't in sync with one another. Because if we were talking to one another, the type of conversation we would be having would be very different, right? It wouldn't be about trying to stun on one another. It would be like, how can I help you, right? I heard X, Y, and Z is happening. Is there a way for us to be supportive, right? Like genuinely supportive. So I try not to pay attention to all that stuff because to me, it's not even important to shame the folks that make that sort of content so much as that like I want to be clear that like the reality is not that. It's not even the reality for those people. The reality really is that we're all trying to figure it out
Yeah.
like every single day. We don't know, right? The people that you admire, they don't know. They woke up this morning just like you and are trying to figure out how to make that thing more of a reality. Now, there may be some people that are 3 steps ahead because they started, and this is the other thing that is a lot of times forgotten. You've been at this for almost a decade,
Yeah.
right? So people experiencing you now is some overnight
Oh,
thing. It's like
no, it's far from that.
like at night, but not overnight, right? Like this has happened long nights, but like so keep that context and know. And I don't feel like even saying going out on a limb is not even the right way to frame it. Every day you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Every day I am trying to figure it out. I've made a crazy number of mistakes, right? Like, I probably have a mistake that's being made like right now as we're having this conversation. Like, it happens all the time. My job every single day, though, is to just stay rooted in the idea that, like, I'm not having a unique experience. I'm just like everybody else right now, doing the best that I can. The more that we can acknowledge that in one another, have some grace. We live in, I mean, like, the amount of hate that we are very comfortable sharing about and even to one another should not be normalized. It's like it's not a normal thing to start to just critique openly. Now, look, we should hold people accountable. If somebody does something wrong, we should absolutely talk about that. But if you look at half the time what we spend time talking about,
Hmm.
it isn't some like deep dark offense. It's a lot of times a person that tried a thing and it didn't go exactly how they planned, but they did it in good faith. And we should say, hey, look, that wasn't really what we were looking for. You didn't really handle that the right way, but like keep going because we need to see you be successful. I appreciate every single person that has given us that opportunity. Made a mistake, but I've been able to look them in the eye and say, I didn't mean to do that. I'm genuinely sorry about it. If you give me an opportunity to have an opportunity, I will put my best foot forward. Thank God there have been a lot of people that have been able to say, all right, cool, like let's try it again. If we all moved more like that, you would see people have, frankly, just even the confidence to get in the game. Which a lot of people don't even want to play. They don't even want to try this stuff because they read these things and are
Yeah.
like,
And they know that if not even if you fail, but they know that there are people out there that'll take any little hiccup and hold it up as if you had some level of like malice intent
and they're
behind
like,
it.
I don't want to deal with that. I mean, seriously, there are very talented people that are like, I don't want to sign up for that.
Hmm.
I want my idea out in the world. I'm really, and so there's some people that will hear me say that and be like, oh, well, that's what you sign up for. Why? Why have we accepted that that's what you're signing up for if you are trying to put an idea out in the world, that you
Yeah.
have to take hatred? Now, I think we can acknowledge a lot of people just seem to carry that with them, but like, I'm not going to normalize that as like the expected and almost right response
Hmm.
to, I, 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 I want to see people, especially here in Atlanta, do well. And that is not some altruistic thing. I want to live in a city where people are doing well, right? That is a better place for me and my family if you and your family and everyone that is listening to this, their families are doing better. But that's not going to happen by osmosis, and that's a mistake we make a lot here. Like we think it's if we just hit like enough times that like all of a sudden that's how platforms grow, and it's like no, it takes real intentionality. Like
Yeah.
it takes like you have to like will that into existence, not just all right, good luck. That version of our support in Atlanta to me has to die, which is very common. We'll see a thing. Congratulations, go eat there like this weekend, right? Like someone dropped a product, like go buy it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we've had a bunch of friends over the last several months write books. Go buy them, and yes, go spend the rest of the year trying to read them all, but like go buy them. I've got a stash right now of books that like I absolutely intend to read, but what was more important is that I know that sales of these books they need to happen,
Yeah.
and I could I'm fortunately in a position to make that purchase. So that's what support is. It's not these grand acts. We don't need it's not billboard work. It's just I see what you're doing. I'm gonna pull up at it and spend whatever couple dollars that I have to make that thing be more successful. And I'm genuinely interested in watching you. I'm not threatened or like anything by watching anything else grow because that is what is good for us collectively, and that's what's most important, especially in moments like right now. If you haven't been interested in collective action before, like this is the probably the best moment in your lifetime to go ahead and jump into the game.
Yeah. I had an interesting perspective from a friend of mine. He said, even when you think about it, for us, a lot of us, again, we're first generational still. I mean, when it comes to just access to these things and resources, like I know for me, my mom grew up still drinking out of black only water fountains in Alabama. And so again, when you think about these things, like it's not like these were hundreds of years ago and generations ago. We're still there, but like now we're the adults now, and so we now have to like start to set up that next generation. So we got to give ourselves a little bit of grace, but we also got to be honest about
Yeah.
where we are and like how we can move forward, right?
It's I had a similar comment, the exact same comment. I was having lunch with Amani, who is the great founder of CultureCon, and she said that at lunch. She was like, "Oh, is it crazy that like we're the adults now?"
Yeah.
And it hit. I was like, I was kind of enjoying being a kid. Like I really thought about it that way. But no, this is the moment genuinely where we've got to step up and participate. And I'm not trying to boil the ocean. I think sometimes when you talk about these topics, they just feel like really big and very grandiose. What really does it look like? It looks like a lot of things. It looks like calling your friend today and asking them how they're doing. Right? It looks like finding a business that you want to see continue to make it in the neighborhood. Like my least favorite thing is being on the internet and we will get the announcement of a business closing and people in the comments are like, "Oh, I go go."
Yeah.
It's not that complicated what happened. They weren't making enough money in order to make that location viable. So like if you love a thing and it exists right now, go buy that thing if you can. And look, I get it's not every day, right? But like it doesn't need to be every day. It needs to be all of us consistently just trying our best, which the data shows us. This is where opinions stop. The data shows us that's not how we're playing the game right now. We allow things to just kind of sit out there. I don't think we're wishing ill, right, on a lot of these efforts, but we're not like doing anything to make them successful. Like, and I think that has to be the attitude. Like, I am going to be a part of like willing this thing to a championship. And my little piece of it isn't going to be the piece, which again, that's a lot of times the fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be the 50% kind of participant in the process. The 0.5% like mattered. But to your point around, first gen and second gen money, another tough conversation is that like, especially in the black community, there are a handful of second and third generation situations. Anybody that you think has money just got it. Or just, like they been and relatively speaking, they probably don't even have that much of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, respectfully, I don't want any problems, but like this is first gen cash. I mean, I remember I was sitting at a bank, man. They were like, um, "What do you want your Atlanta legacy to be philanthropically?" And we were having this conversation like near Thanksgiving, and I was like, respectfully, when I go to Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks, there's poverty at that table, at my table, like in my family right now. So I can't sit here and have a conversation with you about my lifetime legacy. Like I get where this question comes from, but like in my situation right now, my family situation, shoot, we just got here wherever here is. So like, and there's a lot of work to still do to get to this place where we can start talking generationally and
Yeah.
like for generations, I yet seen and all that. Like generations yet seen. I'm talking about generations that are like,
Yeah. Everybody talking about generational wealth. We talking about like right
I'm
now.
talking about right, like yeah, like not even like right now, but like right now, like. And so, I mean, it's okay for us to take a step back and be like, look, where we are in the city is great. It could be better. And we need to be setting up those second and third generation opportunities. My kids need to take this baton and be able to push it further. And what conditions need to be in place in order to make that a true statement. But me falling in love with an idea that actually is a myth isn't going to help to facilitate that, right? So, I mean, we're doing, some of us, which is a big, that double underline the sum, are doing a little bit better. And we have a responsibility to make sure that some more of us are too, because this is no fun standing in the it's another old analogy, like standing in the club by yourself.
Yeah.
Do you want to be the person that's either paying for all of the bottles that are coming, or in there in the section solo, or do you want to be able to invite your community to be able to have that experience with you?
Hmm.
I think that's the model that makes sense.
Yeah, man. Now, on the flip side, what do what are you seeing in Atlanta and in culture that gives you hope, right? Like who's getting it right? Like what are you seeing that makes you feel like, we can get this thing right again and get this back on track?
I mean, the creativity's always been here, and there's the same people that have been building for a long time are still building, right? So I'm excited about that, right? Like, and that community knows each other. A lot of cities do not. So what gives me hope here is that like you can get, if I look at just like even the guests on this platform, that's Atlanta. I don't think you could do that in any other city.
Yeah.
From elected officials to folks that are leading really big businesses, the people that are leading small ones, people like in creative, like our superpower in Atlanta is the ability to be able to do that, right? Know each other across lines that most other cities, those lines are never crossed, right? We do something really, really difficult here. The big business CEO types know the small business owners. That sounds basic, but it does not happen in other cities. It just doesn't occur, right? So we have the ingredients here, and this to me is one of the more important cities in the world right now. We just have to put some more intention around the togetherness piece of it, like being very specific about how that works every day. And to me, Atlanta will continue to be one of the more consequential places around. We have the mathematics here though to make that true. And other ways that other places don't, man. Other cities you go to, they're trying to figure out the basics of how they're gonna get the economy to work.
Hmm.
We can't decide if we're a fintech capital, a startup capital, a music capital, film capital. Like we're fighting about like what actually is the industry of the town. Where all these other cities are like, we need an industry.
Hmm.
That's what gives me a ton of hope, right? Because like it's in the ingredients are sitting here on the table. We gotta go bake the cake.
Yeah, I always, think about and talk about kind of like Atlanta. Things are still possible. Like it's not perfect, but they're still possible. Like the
100%.
beautiful example I kind of give is the 404-day parade we just pulled off. I was talking to my daughter about this. I said, I had that idea a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
It started with an idea. And because I have a relationship with the mayor's office and the mayor hit him up, he was like, let's make it happen now again. I paid for it.
Yeah,
Let me get it clear. But I said, how difficult would it have been? How possible would it have been to do that same thing in a year in any other major city? I
I'm not betting that happens.
Yeah, in LA, in New York, in Chicago, like there's no way that we could have possibly organized that kind of event, shut down the main street downtown and had the mayor and everybody else out. And again, that's where I think you see the possibility of like what Atlanta really and truly is.
Man, yo, like for the parade was dope, but like uh, when I saw the conversation that you hosted and all the creatives you brought together at State Farm, I haven't seen that at Staples or whatever it's called, whatever the place is called. So
Crypto.com or
yeah,
something like that's one of them.
for me, there's
One of those
certain
things.
things are gonna die hard. That's one of them. Um, with respect, right? Like there's a lot of dope things that are happening in LA, but like I haven't seen that. I can't point to another city in the country where you're like the arena, right? Like which for us is like, oh, that's State Farm. Like there are people in most of these other cities that like have never been to the Garden,
Hmm.
right? Have never thought about going to. I mean, like what makes Atlanta special is that it is accessible in some way, shape, or form. It's not perfect, but it like the fact that like you can see that as a reality in this city to me is like that's incredible. That's like a true statement. I watch somebody that I see in my community show up and take over the arena. It's like what I'm saying with also the plane. It's like only in Atlanta can you call people at a major airline at a Fortune 5 and be like, "Hey, I need a plane." And to be like to be clear, I pay for it, but like I need a plane. That is uniquely what Atlanta's able to produce, and like we can't forget that either. Like that's what makes this city. I'm not going. I will never go anywhere, right? But like it's this is a preservation project, right? So you can't just fall in love with this version of it because man, it's like anything in startup life, right? Like there has to be some movement. So we've got to continue to talk about What does that movement need to be, and who needs to be a part of that conversation? And for me, a lot of it gets down to the math. I just want folks to be able to survive here, and it's not impossible. I mean, we're here, right? But like, I think there's ways for us to make it a little bit easier for a lot of people to enjoy this experience.
Yeah, man. Look, before we get out of here, this has been an amazing conversation. Again, like all the stuff you do at TGS and just all the connections you have to entrepreneurs, small business, politicians, just people up and down, kind of that ecosystem of culture and capital, right? Like if somebody's listening to this and they're feeling stuck or overwhelmed or just like unsure about like what their next move is, like what would you say to them right now?
I'd say two quick things. First, that experience is not that different, right? Like, embrace that, right? That like not being sure, feeling like you're not the right person, maybe underestimating your qualifications. Like, I've had the privilege, as you mentioned, of meeting some of the biggest names of our time. But when you actually talk to those folks, they talk about the same things. They are having that same very human experience of being like, and now look, the stakes might be a little bit different, right? Everything is relative, but like they're fundamentally experiencing the same emotions. I don't know if I can get another championship. I don't know if I can get my music back out there. Like it's the same sort of fundamentals. Right behind that, I would say genuinely, the world and this city, like we need you to produce that thing. So like, please, there's never gonna be perfect circumstances. You're never gonna have the right amount of money. The weather's never gonna be it's not gonna be the. I think sometimes people want like birds chirping, blue
Yeah,
skies, and like that's the day to get started. That day's not coming. Today is here though. So like, go make that thing happen and know that like you're in a context, especially if you're in Atlanta, where people will applaud and be excited to see you try, right? And so I mean, my biggest thing with TGS is like if we could have an opportunity to have an opportunity, what a blessing that is. If you have an opportunity to have one, go try to make that thing happen. A lot of times the downsides aren't that they're not as scary as probably what they feel like right now.
absolutely. Well, look, Ryan, man, this is great, man. Before we get out of here, just I'm sure some people know, but for those that don't, man, tell them all the things. How can they support you, the gathering spot, the retreat? How can they get involved in all the different stuff you got going on?
uh, we're easy to find. We're at the gathering spot on everything. We're a membership community, right? So if you're interested in becoming a member, go to thegatheringspot.club or find us on social. It's pretty easy from there to get in touch with us. I'm easy to find online too. Ryan Wilson on everything and on certain platforms, Spot on RW. But like, we're not that difficult to connect with. If you have an event or an experience or thing that you want to you need support on, give us a shout. That's what this business was created to do. But um, I appreciate. I mean, in like in conclusion here, to you and everybody that's been a part of this experience. If you've attended an event, if you've been a member of the club, I don't care how you've connected with us. Thank you. It is still surreal to me every single day. Like a lot of times the big names that have come through TGS is what comes up. But it's those small moments just watching people like sit at the bar and like talk with one another that I'm like, wow, I'm really, really grateful. I've only had one job. This has been the only thing that I've ever done professionally. So um, I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and for everybody that comes.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for what you're putting out there into the culture to make these opportunities available and giving us a place to gather, man. We appreciate it.
All love. See you soon.
And with that said, we out. That's the pod.